Growth can be beneficial to cities in many ways. When we plan well, we create vibrant and equitable neighborhoods where more people have what they need close to home. We can leverage growth to help shift the needle on our commitments to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and supporting our environment. We can generate city revenues to be invested in quality amenities and services for all who live here. Growth also brings challenges. Infrastructure, including roads, water, and sewer, needs to be adjusted and possibly expanded. And this infrastructure, once built, needs to be maintained and occasionally upgraded, which can affect taxes paid by citizens. New construction can place pressure on natural features, watersheds, trees, and habitats. Our community services, recreational facilities, parks, and programs see increasing demand. Planning ahead for where to focus growth helps maximize opportunity and identify and mitigate challenges. In 2020, the city completed projections and a land inventory that informed scenarios planning. Key findings from that analysis tell us that Nanaimo's population has now surpassed 100,000. By 2046, it's estimated that Nanaimo's population could grow by up to an additional 40,000 residents, and an additional 18,000 new jobs could be created. For residential, there likely is enough remaining land that's suitable for housing development within Nanaimo's boundary to accommodate the projections, depending on the types of housing we develop. While a lot of the land that would work for single-family homes has already been developed, there's still a lot of opportunity for infill in multifamily housing forms. When it comes to commercial lands, we have more than enough. This is a challenge because having too much commercial land can lead to it being too spread out and contributing to our car-oriented nature. It's recommended to look for opportunities to support existing retail areas by adding new commercial uses and helping to create a critical mass that serve many people within a short distance. The land inventory suggests that Nanaimo may be facing a shortage of industrial lands. With the city's strategic location and transportation network, Nanaimo is attractive to industry, which helps to create good jobs and economic development. However, if our existing industrial areas fill up and we don't have more, we could see industry choose other locations. Finally, Nanaimo has key institutional uses including the hospital and university that will continue to be strong drivers for employment. As the city evolves, we'll need to work closely with educational and health providers to align facilities with our growth. As we consider scenarios, it's important to remember that we're building on what's already here, and what's already here will continue to form a big part of our city in the future. If you think about the fact that we currently have 100,000 people living in Nanaimo today, and we're planning for an additional 40,000 over the next 25 years, that means that 70% of our 2046 population are already here. A common misconception in scenario planning is that change will be drastic and fast. The reality is that change through growth is slow and incremental, and much of what exists today will very much be part of what's here in our future. We're not wiping Nanaimo off the map and starting over, we're building on what we have. Our goal is to make informed choices about new additions that will help us move closer towards our goals. Nanaimo's past is a suburban city. Prior to this century, our growth has been long and linear, stretching north and south at relatively low densities. This means, as a city, we have much lower overall population density than some of the more urban centers we often compare ourselves to. And even as our population grows, Nanaimo will continue to be a medium-density city. As we planned, it's important for us to remember to embrace and work with that and recognize that our form will not be the same as much denser urban centers. Because of Nanaimo's past growth patterns, we have a lot of large, low-density sites in our city, with our malls and commercial areas being some of the most visible examples. As our city evolves, sites like these could become more attractive for redevelopment and infill. When large sites are developed, they can supply thousands of new homes. If even a few of the larger sites in our city are developed, a large portion of our new growth could be accounted for. Therefore, it's very important to talk about priorities. Should we be working to concentrate growth in key locations? And if so, where would that growth have the greatest benefit for our goals? In the past 5 years, Nanaimo has been seeing a shift from new construction being predominantly in single-unit forms to more multi-unit forms. There are several reasons for this, including affordability and changing demographics, but also that Nanaimo is starting to reach a point where there isn't that much land remaining that's suitable for new single-family development. As a city like Nanaimo begins to near its boundaries, it's faced with decisions about where to go next. Often, when this happens, trends shift to infill and densification, with new development using sites within the existing urban area. There's only so much land available within a city boundary, which means choices are needed about how best to use it. A key question that many medium-sized cities are facing is how to manage escalating infrastructure costs. That's the cost to take care of the roads, sewers, and water lines that connect to our homes. Operating and maintaining infrastructure for compact development, like apartments, is much cheaper than for sprawling areas with detached homes. Recent studies in communities throughout Canada show it's typically 2 times or more expensive to manage and maintain infrastructure for low-density development, simply because there's more infrastructure being used by fewer people. So in effect, if we grow outward through single-family development, the cost to manage and maintain infrastructure and subsequently the taxes paid by the community will be higher than if more growth happens through infill and more compact developments. One of the reasons that planning for Nanaimo is especially complex is because it is an urban city within a region and has an important role to play in accommodating population growth in order to protect the forests and fields beyond our boundaries from sprawl. This is a challenging balance because that means the city needs to provide housing that people want, so demand isn't unintentionally shifted into regional district rural lands where people are more spread out and need to commute. At the same time, it's important to manage city growth so that it's sustainable, affordable, and aligns with our goals. Considering this regional context and trying to balance city needs with regional needs is part of scenarios exploration. Finally, it's important to recognize that change through growth alone will not create a sustainable and resilient city. While it's important that we make thoughtful choices about future growth, we're not going to achieve success around our mobility, climate change, and social goals without also implementing key strategies, no matter how we grow. That means that as Reimagine Nanaimo continues, in addition to looking at growth, we'll also need to continue conversations about overarching strategies that will work alongside the land use plan that's created. Combining a strong land use plan that identifies where and how we wish to grow in the future with powerful strategies that shift our collective actions and efforts is what we need.